Found and explained. Russia's best fighter jet ever made, the MiG-21.
Brought to you by Squarespace. In the night skies flying high above the clouds, a formation of B-52 bombers is closing in on their
Ooh.
target. But they're not alone.
Wait, where is this? Where did beef? Oh, Vietnam? Yeah, I guess only Vietnam. Okay.
Major Pham Tuan in his MiG-21 is being guided by ground radar to try and get behind the American bombers. And this was
Ooh, interesting little tidbit or like kind of extra info on that. During these war times when big nations give kind of good weaponry, kind of better cutting edge weaponry to these smaller nations who are having the conflict, cutting edge from the smaller nations perspective, not from the the Soviet Union or the Americas, like US's perspective. When they give those, quite often there's not enough time to train the people to use that equipment well. So a lot of the times, secretly, let's say the North Vietnamese have brand new radar systems with surface-to-air missiles. They'll be operated by Russians on the ground in Vietnam to kind of like whatever command is given to like activate and defend this area or things like that. Which then again, if those sites get taken out by American jets, technically an American soldier got rid of a Soviet soldier, but it's kind of hush hush because you don't want to start World War III. So that does happen. That has happened in the past. I'm pretty sure that still happens to this day. Just a small little piece of information.
the first time that he had tried. The B-52s were now in his sight. All he had to do was to get into range. The minimum safe range to launch his K-13 missiles is 8 kilometers, but he knows he has to be a lot closer, narrowing the distance down to 5 kilometers, 4, 3, and the missiles are away.
Woohoo!
An explosion roars throughout
Damn.
the skies,
Okay.
and he got his
The heat-seeking missile accurately got the plane it was going for. That's never happened in War Thunder. Just kidding. But yeah, that must be a bit like terrifying for the B-52 bomber crews because the plane was made to carry and drop massive ordnance, and that's about it. It can't really do any evasive maneuvers. It's a very heavy, big bus. It's not meant to turn and maneuver like more modern, like C-130s or C-17s. Those can kind of turn around like fighter jets, but not this heavy boy. Also, it doesn't have much in the way of self-defense. Definitely not in the whenever this was in the 1960s and 70s. So good skill on the part of the MiG-21 pilot, where he knew not to fire the missile at or anywhere around its stated range, but that he had to get much closer to fire it. It's very similar in War Thunder as well. You have to get closer, much closer. So interesting how they got that right in the video game. But yeah, okay, let's see what happened then.
kill. The first ever B-52 was shot down in air-to-air combat. This was all thanks to the new fighter jet that had been delivered to the Vietnamese, the MiG-21. The MiG-21 was one of the most successful Soviet aircraft ever built, and this is the story of how it almost
Oh, that's a beautiful shot. It is also true from the sense of the MiG-21 is, I believe, the most produced or one of the top 5 most produced fighter jets ever to exist. So even in that sense, in terms of the customer's always right kind of mindset or analogy, there's like more than 11,000-12,000 MiG-21s that were produced overall. So in those terms also it is one of the best planes ever, if not the best. Obviously of its time, MiG-21 isn't going to be able to do anything up against an F-22. But for its time, including production and use for different nations, yeah.
The 50s brought about one of the greatest evolutions in the history of aviation. The sound barrier was broken, and anti air systems could not keep up with the new jet engines that were being put onto these aircraft at the time. The Soviets themselves were struggling to keep up against the new US spy planes, bombers, and fighters, so they decided to orient their development towards interceptors. Because if the Americans kept poking into their territories, they might as well be able to catch up and take them out. So to create these new jets, it came down to the classic rivalry, MiG versus Sukhoi, something that we'll see again and again during the Cold War, and this competition was no different. The MiG-21 would go on to become one of the most prolific Russian jet aircraft used across the world. But you don't need to be a superpower.
I have heard that the MiG-21, like in terms of manufacture and ease of use, was just designed to be a very simple thing. But I have also heard that the MiG-21 was it wasn't something a beginner could handle. Like you needed to train a bit to be able to handle this plane. So very competing claims. I'm not sure about that. Let me know if anybody knows exactly how easy or difficult it was to fly this thing.
After a good performance of MiGs during the Korean War against US jets,
Ooh, also, since I skipped the whole um, advert part, the link to this video will be in the description. Do go and give it a watch and support the creator, Found and Explained.
the Bureau was set to build a new fighter, but with speed now as the priority. Two prototypes were created called the YE-2 and the YE-4. The YE, or otherwise pronounced Yi, standing for
Yay! Okay.
Jedinitsa, or single unit in Russian,
Ah,
which was the
okay.
standard
Okay.
designation for prototypes.
It's like the American planes with well, X, yeah, with the X designation. Like the X-32 became the F-30, wait, the X-35 became the F-35. And then the X-32 never went anywhere. If that was selected, it would have become the F-32. Too many letters. Alphabet is jumbling. Anyway, so Yi is designation for prototypes, I suppose. Okay. Yi 2 looks very similar to older MiG-19, MiG-15 kind of design concepts.
Although similar in design, the Yi-2 had swept wings, well known and a studied design by that time, which was optimized for supersonic speeds, but not very good for subsonic or takeoff. However, the Yi-4 was a new design with delta
Yi.
wings instead. These kinds of wings would allow for better maneuverability, better lift, and more fuel capacity, keeping the optimal performance when going supersonic. This initial design was actually similar to Sukhoi's design of the swept wing Su-7 and delta wing Su-9.
Okay. So, okay. So I was thinking of the Su-7 when I was saying MiG-19. But the MiG-19 is also, it's not that alike. It's not that similar to the MiG-21 then. The Su-7 has the same kind of cone as the MiG-21. And then this thing the Su-9 looks just like almost like a MiG-21. Kind of like a more dorky design.
Even the West at the time confused them when they first appeared. After testing both prototypes in flight, it was an easy choice, and the Yi-4 became a base for what we know as the
Yi-4?
MiG-21 today. Well, kind of. You see, there was actually one little hiccup, and it was because Sukhoi actually won the contract first.
Wait, what?
The Su-9 entered service as the new Soviet interceptor, but MiG wasn't going to lose this battle and tried
Oh,
a new
okay.
approach, changing its focus away from a fast interceptor into a dogfighter interceptor. The
Oh,
new Tumasky R-25 engine would give this jet enough power to go over Mach 2, and its design would allow it to be quite
I haven't heard Tamansky engines or Tumansky, however you say it. Tamansky engines, I've not heard of that name in so long. If I remember correctly, old MiG-25s used to have Tamansky engines. If I remember correctly, feel free to correct me in the comments. But yeah, nowadays I haven't heard that name. Did the company go under?
maneuverable in flight and go toe-to-toe with most American jets. The first variant, called the MiG-21F, entered service by 1959. It was armed only with two 30mm guns because air-to-air missiles at the time was something that the Soviets were heavily lagging behind the Americans. However, in a turn of events, it would be the Americans who would actually help the Soviets develop their first air-to-air missile and make the MiG-21 become the fighter we know it today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess is he gonna go into it? Let's see.
During the Chinese-Taiwanese War in
He is gonna go
1958,
into it.
the Taiwanese Sabres flew with the new AIM-9 Sidewinders, and in a crazy coincidence, one of the Chinese MiG-17s got shot with an AIM-9, which didn't explode. It was lodged into the fuselage and the MiG landed safely. After persuading the Chinese to give them the missile, the Soviets
Oh damn, they straight up just handed the best technology they had at the time. Nice.
very quickly reverse engineered it, and the K-13 missile entered service. In the
Ooh.
words
Oh, the first Wimple. Wimple is a name you hear quite a bit when you talk about like Russian missiles. Wimple, Archer.
of one of the engineers, the Sidewinder missile was to us a university offering a course in missile construction technology. This would level the playing field, and the MiG-21 was soon to have its chance to prove its expectations in combat. The Vietnam War was the largest conflict after World War II, and it was used by both the US and the Soviets to test new weapons, perfect the ones that were already in service, and train personnel for the ultimate war that was brewing between the East and the West.
That does tend to happen. A lot of conflicts end up being testing grounds for testing out new weaponry and equipment and updating and upgrading existing weaponry and equipment. People tend to see it as like a modern negative, but that's just how it has been since there's been conflict. That's always the case. It's very intriguing and interesting, though. It's unfortunate, but it's very interesting.
It's here, or rather in the skies above it, that air warfare was once again revolutionized. The MiG-21 was
the
the
MiG-21 looks tiny compared to the helicopters. Is that the Mi-17? Either the Mi-7 or the Mi-17, I can't tell. Yeah, MiG-21 looks tiny. It is a small aircraft. Even from fighter jet standards, it's not like a big, heavy plane. But yeah, this does put it in perspective, huh? The planes need not always be bigger than helicopters.
once again revolutionized. The MiG-21 was the best the East could offer and would face up against a very formidable opponent, the F-4 Phantom. The F-4 was superior in almost every way. It was a multi-role aircraft equipped with radar, both IR and radar-guided missiles, 2 engines, and a higher max speed. But the MiG was a fighter made for that role only, and being very maneuverable with the right pilots and tactics, it would prove to be extremely deadly. Vietnamese pilots trained in the USSR would adopt new tactics to take on the F-4. Instead of flying directly to intercept, where they had no chance due to their radar having 2 times less the range and no medium-range radar-guided missiles like the AIM-7s, they would usually go around and try attacking enemy formations from the side or the rear. If they got close enough to enter a dogfight, then they would have the advantage. You see, the first variants of the F-4 didn't even have a cannon. It was thought...
Oh yeah, that was a huge mistake by US where you developed missiles, and before you could perfect close range missiles, make them more or less like invincible, not invincible because it's a weapon, it's not a shield. Make them kind of more or less perfect, where once it's fired, it's like the game is done, you are guaranteed to hit your target. Before they could reach that, which would take them another like 30, 35 years, they were like, oh, we have missiles now, we don't need any guns. Big mistake. They learned from it, and that's exactly why the F 22, being a stealth fighter, which is just, it's absolutely not supposed to, it is designed to, but it's not supposed to enter dogfights. That plane still has a gun. That's not its primary weapon, that's like a last ditch effort knife fight, flip open knife that they gave the F 22. Which, if you look at the design and the concept and the philosophy of the F 22, including its weaponry, shouldn't need it. It's one of those backup things. So they did learn from this mistake, but yeah, you could say it's a costly mistake.
Thought that the future of air warfare was just missiles, but that wasn't correct, at least for the moment. If MiGs
Yeah.
managed to go into a dogfight, M4s would almost be sitting ducks. After a long and unsuccessful campaign, Rolling Thunder, which saw almost 1,000 US aircraft being lost, Americans
Oh my goodness. 1,000 aircraft. That has to have been America's worst, US Air Force's worst performance since World War II, like in terms of damages received, and even like I don't think after this there's been that many aircraft losses after the Vietnam War.
were forced to completely redesign their air warfare and strategy, leading to the NSAWC, or the Top Gun School,
Top
being created in
Gun!
the Navy and Air Force to start their own fighter school, focusing on dogfighting to take on the MiG 21. Most of the
Damn, so the MiG 21 was the cause for the. Sorry, my apologies. The MiG 21 was the cause for Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick, huh? They should have had MiG 21s in at least one of those films. If not for these planes on the screen right here, we would have never had Top Gun.
These aces from the war flew on the MiG 21, including the top ace, Nguyen Van Kok, with 9 victories, and even today, they fondly
Interesting.
remember their time with this aircraft. The MiG 21 proved to be everything it was expected to be, and its career was just getting started. The fish bed saw a
Ooh, I like this darker camo paint.
lot more combat during its career, but its title as one of the best fighters in the sky started to slip around the Israel Arab wars because it was quickly outclassed by the new F 16s and F 15s.
Yeah.
Although some flown by top Soviet pilots were still able to go toe to toe with the best of the Israelis. During the Iran Iraq War, Iraqi MiG 21s were credited with almost 40 kills with similar losses.
Oh,
The
wow.
MiG 21 BIs were probably the ultimate modernization of this aircraft, which was widely spread, with many countries adopting this aircraft as their jet fighter of choice. Overall, more than 11,000 MiG 21s
There we go. That is a successful plane.
were built, either by the Soviets or by other Eastern Bloc countries, making it the most produced supersonic aircraft in history, and some 60 countries have used them at some point. The story of the MiG 21
Yay! The most updated and upgraded MiG 21 to ever exist. Yes, the poor thing's body is giving out, so it should be retired. And it is getting retired in phases, but I think the last Indian Air Force squadron's retirement date got pushed from the end of 2024 to 2025 because of like modern jet replacement procurement issues, which whatever that is. But for what it is, it's a very cool upgrade. It's a very cool plane.
lives up to this day, and it's still in service. Over 60 years after its first flight in numerous countries, and just like its nemesis, the F-4, it is one of the most legendary aircraft ever built. Nowadays, even two NATO countries still use the MiG-21, namely Croatia and Romania, but that is soon to change with them acquiring new and modern aircraft. Do let me know if you'd like to see more videos on jets that didn't just stay as paper projects or ended their career in a prototype phase, or more videos focused on stories from certain conflicts and perspectives. It's a new
This was very, very cool. Yes, we definitely like more videos of this kind. But yeah, so the last variant of the MiG-21 is the Indian Air Force's MiG-21 Bison, I believe, where the plane has a upgraded Russian radar, so modern Russian radar. It can fly with an Israeli jammer, I believe. It's like a long rectangular block which you can put on one of the missile racks. So, you lose one missile. And it can carry modern, like R-77 missiles, which are kind of just below the top of the line Russian missiles. The top of the line is like R-77Ms, which I think they have in the Sukhoi 57s now. But yeah, it's a 60-year-old plane with almost completely upgraded, nearly completely modern electronics, sensors, and missiles. Kinda. It's not modern from the American US aircraft standpoint. It's still about like 10 years dated at this point. But yeah, fantastic video. Thank you. Found and explained.